Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And I am across the pond. I believe in the UK. I want to welcome to the show Anthony Hegarty, if I said his name right. This is going to be an interesting guest that you're going to learn some great stuff from. Anthony, hey, welcome to the show.
Good morning. And I'm a little bit farther than across the pond. I'm in the Far East, but I'm from across the pond. And I work in the UK and in the US.
Where are you located right now?
Right at the moment, I'm in South Korea.
That's right, South Korea. Awesome. See how far this podcast goes? We reach way out there.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background. You know, what got you into it, which we'll talk about in a minute, what you're doing now.
Right. Well, I started my career at Scotland Yard. And after becoming a detective, I was involved in violent crime and behavioural analysis. Then I decided that I didn't wish to be confined to the more and more regulations that were coming around, and sort of, you know, we were always fighting crime with one hand tied behind our backs, and maybe many Americans can relate to that today. So I moved on, and to cut a long story short, I would end up in the Far East, Southeast Asia, where I got involved in human trafficking and intel and disrupting operations of trafficking gangs and the child sex tourist industry, where we disrupted a lot of things like that. And eventually, you know, I would end up in Japan, training the Japanese police, and more by accident than design, I ended up in South Korea on a 6-month project. And during that 6 months, many years ago now, met the person who is now my wife. Hence, I ended up staying. So,
very cool story. And you hear Scotland Yard right away, movies come to my head. So it kind of excited me. I didn't know that about you. So, you know, that's a great background. And thank you. God bless you for what you do, because human trafficking, we all know, is just not good, and it needs to be eradicated. And please appreciate your part in doing that. Let's delve into what you're doing now, what DSRM is, and let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, DSRM is a consultancy located here in South Korea. We focus on crisis management and just basically what could, you know, you're always dealing with what negative event might happen at some unknown date in the future, or rather what might not happen. And so it's actually a difficult sell, because people say, well, it hasn't happened. Why do we need to, you know, work on that? But projects that your listeners will be familiar with might be, that I've dealt with, might be like the G20 Summit, the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. A great deal could have gone wrong. So my role was basically, for my clients, we had about 500 executives coming into the country for the Olympics. And my role was to have evacuation plans, safe housing in the mountains, extraction plans out to Japan or China, in the case that there may have been an attack by North Korea at the time. So that's the sort of thing we deal with. I do a lot of work with companies whose, which is where I am today, because there's been a sort of naturally evolved what I'm doing now. A lot of companies are actually very concerned about their employees, their safety going to and from work, commuting on the subway systems, public transport, walking. And so what we developed was our current project, the Stay Safe Journal, which is either a monthly or bi-weekly journal, which goes out, you can see it behind me. It goes out to predominantly HR or well-being leaders, who then distribute it to all of their employees across the country. And each one will deal with a different crime. It could be a sexual crime. It could be a crime against a child, because your employees probably have children, an elderly relative. Each issue will cover the behavioral patterns of certain types of offenders, and how you, with a little bit of knowledge, you can counter those patterns, and you can mitigate your own risks. And that means that empowers the individual personally.
Very unique, Anthony. That's something I've never
Of all
heard.
the searching I've done, I can't find a similar item anywhere. So there's lots of crime prevention sites on the internet, but there's nothing that deals with this exactly, and there's nothing targeting like employers to empower their employees in this way. I mean, you can, not so much in the UK, and certainly not here in Korea, but in America, you are allowed to sort of arm yourself in order to protect yourself. Which may or may not be a good thing. I don't know. But the only thing is, if you choose to arm yourself with a knife or a gun, then you need to be prepared to use it, because if you're not, then the other person is going to use it against you. In the UK, we don't have that option, so we just have to try to be, use our heads about it.
So, what I'm hearing from you, prevention's good, but you're educating. That's another level, correct?
That's right. I mean, you can go to the doctor, or you can go to the cardiac surgeon, and get a very different viewpoint.
Right, and that's powerful because, and especially in America, I know this is February 14th. I think it's a day later for you, but we just had another shooting at Michigan State College. It's becoming rampant. So that's where you can help these employers to help their employees, correct?
That's right. And in the case of education institutions, this newsletter goes out to students too, because across university campuses in both our countries, sexual violence is a very, very big problem.
Yeah, and you hear the story, and then TV shows, of course, mimic what's happened. Scotland Yard, America. This newsletter, is there a cost to it for an employee, and how can they get it?
Not the employee. The cost is the burden of the cost goes to the company.
Okay.
And obviously, the smaller the company, it's going to be more expensive. But if you have at least, I don't know, 200 employees, then the annual cost to each employee is usually less than a cup of coffee. It comes out in cents.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's for what you get. And if you consider that against the price or the cost of an employee not turning up to work because they've been robbed, or because a family member has been injured or robbed, or because they've got to go to the police station, because they're in hospital, because they've got to go to court, all these issues which prevent them from actually attending the workplace. And even if they do attend the workplace, are they really going to be focused on their work, or are they beginning on the telephone, canceling credit cards, calling relatives, or all the other distractions that go on? So it's not a bad investment.
No, an extreme, right? In the extreme, I'm thinking about too is they're killed in a shooting. They're killed, that employee. Now you've got to pay. It's a tragedy that's happened, but from an employer standpoint, now they got to pay for all that money to retrain somebody new, find somebody, train them, right?
That's right. I mean, sometimes we have to put the emotions aside.
Yeah.
Say, well, there's also a business here. And it's not the company, it's not just the rehiring, the retraining, but there are also clients. This person could have been a project leader, and there are downstream clients who, they understand the situation, but that doesn't mean they can afford it.
Right.
And so that's a very big concern that companies should have.
I love too that you were saying that you can educate them to bring them back sooner. So it's taking a month off. They might take a week off. Again, that 3 weeks, they're going to get production from them. Is there an ideal business size or that you're looking at you can help, or is it probably widespread?
Well, it's pretty widespread. I mean, It goes right across the board. There's no significant particular industry because, we're all in this together, literally. But there are smaller companies, like your average dental clinic may have 2 or 3 staff. And so in that sort of area, it could seem expensive for them, but there is an association of dentists. And for the association, therefore, it's peanuts. And they can therefore feed this out to all of their members. So where you do have very small staffed companies, they are generally or often in some sort of professional organization. Hairdressers tend to be, beauticians tend to be members of a larger group.
Yep.
And they can therefore sign up as a group and therefore work that way. And I think that's the better way of doing it.
No, that's very cool. I'm thinking Chamber of Commerce's that have multiple businesses tied to the chamber. Very cool. And I love the serving mentality you just had. Hey, let's do a group. It'll save everybody money, but I'm still going to be effective and hopefully help some lives, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I love that, Anthony.
And you know, in I think it's in California, the law also has a compensation scheme. So companies have to pay if any of their, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if an employee of a company, let's say ABC company, one of their drivers has been robbed and stabbed or whatever, it has nothing to do with his employers, but that the employer has to pay compensation.
And it may be, and anybody on the audience, check it out. Reach out to me or reach out to Anthony. You'll see his information in the show notes. We'd love to find that out. That's why I had you on. I know a brief part of what you do, but I really love, because this is serious. This is stuff that's put aside. It just happens and a loved one dies or something happens and we just move on. But there's a major effect to businesses with this. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And it really does affect businesses like your mom and pop stores right up to the major banks. And a lot of companies actually, particularly the larger banks or larger organizations, of course, they have all their internal security staff and teams and things, but they tend not to deal with, that security for, at least for their staff, tends to stop at the front door. And when you go out the front door, you're really on your own. You're on the subway, thanks, but that's got nothing to do with us. And the time on the subway, or it could be the time on the weekend or a vacation. It could be, you might go down to Mexico for a summer vacation. That's got nothing to do with your staff security. And we have issues on baggage safety and female travel, all these issues which we can cover to keep people safe. I mean, they might go down to Mexico. Yeah. I think the Americans have a saying, what happens in Mexico stays in Mexico or something. Well, you really want your staff to come back. You don't want them staying there. Yeah. It's that's great. And they say that for Vegas, because Vegas is considered the Sin City. Vegas, that's right. But you're right. No, Mexico, I'm sure too. But I love what you're saying. A company that takes you on is caring about their employees outside their walls. That's right. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's a serving mentality. I think, to be honest with you, the media, a lot of people, they do tend to like to beat up on the big companies and making so much money, But if you really do look into the companies, there are a great deal of caring people, because they're people too. They've got families, and regardless of what they do as an organization, within them there are some very, very decent people working there, and they generally do care about their employees. Yeah. And one of the things, because rape is very high, I was just looking at the crime data for rape in LA, and week ending the 11th of February, there has been 76 rapes so far. And it takes me back to this, you touched on university campuses and things, because in the UK, one of the highest counts of rapes on educational campuses is actually at Oxford University. Wow. Yeah, so we tend to associate Oxford with a higher standard, but rape actually has nothing to do with sex. A lot of people misunderstand that. It's really about power and aggression, and generally these are very weak people. But the largest group is what we call the opportunist, and this is where there's a lot of damage done on both sides. I struggle to sympathize with any individual who commits this crime, but every now and again, a guy comes home for summer vacation from school to meet his parents, and then in the morning, Saturday morning, the police knock on the door and arrest him for rape. And this is a very decent family, and they've got a decent son, and they're thinking, are you sure what's going on? And what he's actually done, for him at the time, it was a big joke. They were at a drinking party. Yeah, he wasn't thinking about rape, because when he's drugging this girl's drink or getting her drunk, what's on his mind is to get her in the mood for consensual sex, not to rape her. And that is actually what he's thinking. And he fails to see that it's rape, but it's rape. And as I said, I struggle to sympathize with these people, but his life is also destroyed.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of guys in that situation, their parents are actually have good white collar working jobs, you know, and they also have an opportunity now with, you know, we have an issue dealing with that. They have an opportunity now to educate their sons. This is not a joke, you know. This is not something you can do as a party act. It's not like that, and there are consequences. And if we start to understand what rape really is, as opposed to the general belief that, oh, you know, I haven't had sex for a long time, so therefore, or you know, I was drunk, I didn't control myself. Well, what about the rest of us when we get drunk? Why don't we rape?
Yeah.
You know, so these things don't really stand up. So if we can provide that information to people and they see things in a slightly different perspective than what they might read in the newspaper, then we'll be in a better position to deal with it.
I appreciate that story and that definition, because you're right. If we can understand that, we can handle it better, is kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Education, back to serving and education and teaching.
Yeah.
Do you do anything besides the newsletter? Do you do workshops or anything? Do you work with companies closely?
Yeah. I've done a lot of workshops for the United States military here in Korea. I think I've got some more in the pipeline. I've worked with a lot of companies, the finance industry, going and doing workshops, or through this sort of medium in companies in other countries, doing workshops or presentations. And I've done a lot of university lectures here as well on these subjects. So
the audience out there, if they want you as a speaker, you'd be willing to come to their company, association, chamber. Okay, great. So audience, you heard that here. Use my name. You won't get in trouble. I'll protect you. No, but yeah, reach out, because what Anthony's talking about, to me, is that underlying, we don't want it. We push it aside, right, Anthony? Like, oh, we'll deal with it when we have to deal with it, when then it's too late, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it is you do find that a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to talk about that today. It's, you know, I want to talk about happy things, or I want to I'm just not in the mood for that. But this is happening all around us every day. And until we confront it, because as I said, you know, in both of our countries, we are being left more and more to our own devices. In America, you have this sort of defund the police movement, or a lot of police officers quitting early or moving to other cities or other regions. In the UK, it's not different. The government has cut budgets for the police service right across the board for many years now. And if you call, in England at least, if you call 999, which is the equivalent of your 911, and you require the police, you'll be lucky if the police get there within 15 minutes. And a great deal can happen in 15 minutes, you know, and that's a very sad state of affairs. And that's if they get there at all. And I think the situation is probably not very different in some parts of the United States, sadly. And that adds to the fear of crime, because a lot of people fear crime. And a survey in the UK of nurses found that 68% of nurses feared going to and from work at nighttime using public transport. And again, our countries are very similar in many, many ways. And I would think if the same survey were to be done there, we'd get a very similar result. So we are being left more and more to ourselves. And the traditional sort of, oh, if something goes wrong, I'll just call the police. That's no longer as reliable as it once was, I'm sorry to say.
That's a scary statement. And I say police have their hands behind one arm behind their back, and that's not the place we want that. But
no, that's right.
So I love that you said that we have to arm ourselves with education, because our reliability on the police and EMS and all that is going away. And I appreciate what you're saying, And again, it comes back to me. It's like, we don't talk about this. I'm glad we're open about this because people need to hear this. Is there a story of a company or somebody that saw your newsletter? I'm sure there are. Tell us a story of somebody that the newsletter helped them. They came into a situation and how they learned something from the newsletter and used it.
Well, one of the things which happened, and it goes back to what I just said about the fear of crime. There are a great many companies now. Now we're in this post-coronavirus COVID era. There are a great many people now using the pandemic as, I don't like to say the word excuse, but basically it's an excuse not to return to the office. And in some cases that may very well be true. And because we have such strong health and safety laws, companies can't guarantee their safety from COVID. So companies are in a bit of a bind there. So they're saying, well, look, I'm scared of coronavirus, so I'm going to work from home and I'm legally protected. Therefore, you can't fire me. You have to keep paying me. And I'm going to lie in the garden for the afternoon or whatever. But in reality, and some of the feedback that I've got from readers is that actually, yeah, it wasn't coronavirus. I was just scared to get on the subway. And with some, because if they say, well, I'm not going to come to work because I'm scared I might get robbed, then they can probably get fired on that, or won't get paid or won't get promoted. But if they've got the cover of coronavirus, they're probably protected somewhere, And so some people have said to me, yeah, I feel a little bit more confident now because we have an issue here called aggressive commuters, dealing with that aggression on the subway, some guy getting wild at you and singles you out, So it's instilled some confidence in them. Yeah. Okay, I can get back on the subway. I can go back to my office. I don't need to keep talking about this coronavirus, this, that, or the other. And so in that regard, I think it's helped both instill confidence in them, but it's also got the company out of a bit of a bind.
They're getting production out of their employees. And that's a great story because you can't fight. I mean, COVID's really sensitive. Company can't say, you can come in. No, I got COVID. Yeah, you're right. Wow, that's a great story. It's blowing me away because it's something else, but again, they don't want to talk about because they might get ridiculed or whatever, like you said. Anthony, I met you one time and I learned something about you then. I've learned so much about you and what you do. God bless what you do, because now I realize that you're really saving lives. And I thank you so much for that. Yeah. Well, I know you are one way or another. I'm sure you're not hearing it. But I want to thank you for being on the show. Reach out to Anthony. He's in South Korea, but he's an email away. That goes everywhere. Reach out to him if you have questions. You want him to be a speaker. You're going to love to have him. This guy worked in Scotland Yard. I love him already. With that being said, I just love saying Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard. With that being said, can you leave the audience one tip that you've learned all these years, all these stories that you have and all this experience you have? What's one tip you want to leave with them?
Well, I've actually, when I look back at my professional career, I've worked mainly in non-English speaking countries. And it's always been hard. And actually, to be honest with you, Korea is probably the toughest environment I've worked at because for all the good that is here, they tend to want to not trust people that well or that much. So you have to break down these barriers. And so what I would say to people is give yourself time. If you're a small business person like I am, you're going to get knocked back far more than you're going to be welcomed in. And the key is just to keep at it. Don't let them get you down, because if you believe in what you're doing, if you believe there are some benefits, because in business we sell benefits, we don't sell products anymore, we sell benefits. And if you believe there is a really good benefit to what you're doing, as I believe in what I'm doing, then you'll get there at some stage. You will get there. but it's just having the perseverance and the stubbornness to keep going. I have Irish in my blood, so I'm a Hegarty. So they don't come more stubborn than me. So I just keep going.